Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Tobago. We're here at Amblin, an eye-catching condo situated in the seaside village of Buku. It is our location for today's episode, and we cannot wait to show you all this wonderful property has to offer. Also, in the next half hour, we've got lots in store for you as we recap the major events in Tobago over the past week. So stay with us for all the details. I'm Davia Chambers, and Let's Talk Tobago starts right now. The Tobago House of Assembly presented and debated the island's fiscal 2023 budget request. We've got a breakdown just for you. Nearly 700 families benefit from home improvement support from the Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development. Planned Clinic Mondays are set to resume in-person sessions. And later, the NLTB Buccaneers Steel Orchestra gives thanks as the organization turns 55. We have all these stories and more for you when Let's Talk Tobago returns. Stay with us. Amblin is a quiet, charming condo. It's got 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and can comfortably house 6 guests. You can also enjoy an excellent range of amenities, a fully equipped kitchen, a welcoming balcony and a pool. Whether it's a family vacation or a line with friends, there's room for you right here. The Tobago House of Assembly recently presented the island's fiscal 2023 budget request of almost $4 billion at the Assembly Legislature. Then it was the turn of the members to debate the contents of the budget. We have some highlights of the debate in this story. Have a look.
Proceedings for the $3.97 billion fiscal package presented by the Chief Secretary and Secretary for Finance, Trade and the Economy earlier on June 23, 2022 was now to be debated, pending majority approval in the legislature chamber. The estimates of revenue and expenditure for the Tobago House of Assembly for fiscal 2023 were scrutinized by the Minority Leader and Assemblyman for Darrell Spring Wim, Kelvon Morris, who cautioned the administration that its expectations may be improbable. While he commended some listed items, the Minority Leader questioned the feasibility of salary increases for URP and CPEP.
Given that the requested allocation in the estimates remained at $8 million for URP, the question is, how would such an increase be sustained?
The minority also questioned the administration's plans for several sectors, including the fishing industry.
While it was shared that the fishing industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, there was no clear plan on how we would tap into this industry to generate real revenue.
In her rebuttal, Assemblyman for Bell Garden, Glamorgan, Dr. Faith B. Israel, reminded the minority that the current administration has only been in office since December. Dr. B. Israel says the budget request laid by the Honorable Chief Secretary, Fali Augustine, remains within legal parameters.
If we look at all of the estimates, all of the $3.97 billion, because it really does represent the 6.9% of what we estimate the national budget to be. Because in 2000, there was a ruling that said we can get up to 6.9%.
Further contributions from the House endorsed the Chief Secretary's fiscal 2023 budget presentation.
The division should point to, in fiscal 2023, through the programs and projects identified, the division intends to start the redevelopment of agriculture, fisheries and forestry in Tobago to enable greater environmental and food security. The division will also participate actively in the formulation of Tobago's development plan and associated medium-term expenditure framework, which will provide the context in which its future annual expenditure programs, policies and incentives for the sector development will be designed.
Meanwhile, the Chief Secretary says stakeholder consultations will be ongoing for the 2023 budget.
We will continue that conversation, but one thing the PDP is known for is public engagement and speaking to the people of Tobago. We have never been fearful of that, and so that conversation will continue.
In the end, the motion was put to a vote and passed by way of simple majority. I'm Ryan McCool for Let's Talk Tobago.
So we've shared the views of the Assemblymen on the fiscal 2023 budget request. But what are Tobagonians looking forward to? Well, our production crew took to the streets to find out from residents their budget expectations. Listen up.
The 2021-2022 fiscal year is nearing its end. As we speak, the Tobago House of Assembly is already conducting pre-budget consultations. That's why we have decided to take to the streets to find out what wishes you have for the upcoming financial year. Let's go.
I'd like to see a better bus service to go to the country. We need to get the expense down because you're working, you're not, your salary is the same and everything gone up sky high. So we need better infrastructure and better management. So I hope that they would manage the country, the island better.
Guys from Charlottesville, and we just catch with tail sometimes to get transportation. And we need better service. Better service. We need the food prices to drop. Everything just gone up. Money is not there and everything just gone up. You're going to grocery today, tomorrow you're going next day, everything gone up. And people have to live.
My expectation is for the government of Trinidad and Tobago to do better where food prices are concerned.
And Tong will say gratuity. Everybody is interested in gratuity. So too am I and my colleagues. Yeah, gratuity it is.
While the 2023 THA budget request moves ahead for further assessment, the public will still have the chance to offer suggestions via social media and other platforms catering for stakeholder engagement. I'm Ryan McCool for Let's Talk Tobago.
The Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development continues to respond to the social needs of Tobagonians, especially the most vulnerable residents, through several of its programs. It's the motivation behind the island's single largest grant distribution ceremony held at Shaw Park Complex. We have more in this report. Rennie Kwao, Olympic medalist and one of this country's most decorated 400 meters athletes, now has his own home. Rennie was recently honored by the Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development. He received keys to a home at Plymouth's Homes of Adventure.
It feels good, you know, all my hard work over the years. You know, I mean, it's no big deal. I mean, hard work pays off, so in the end, you know, I was expecting something like this, so I really appreciate it though.
Yes, I do really feel happy about it, and it's hard work paid off. We're very happy.
Additionally, close to 700 families in Tobago got checks to improve their homes. In all, $9 million was presented to the families, making it the largest single disbursement by the Settlements Division.
These times call for financial acumen, prudence, strategic direction, and most importantly, compassion. This is also important to me and Assistant Secretary George. Nothing is more important than caring for our people, and today's disbursement of $9.2 million in our public commitment to upholding our oath of office.
And is an indication that we understand the need to respond to the growing social needs of our island's people, especially the most vulnerable.
Chief Secretary of Tobago, Honorable Fali Augustine, says his administration aims to develop the greatest little island on the planet. The first step, protecting and caring for the most vulnerable.
We know what it is to have humble dwellings, but dwellings that are well taken care of, clean and immaculate. This program is part of a larger dream that we have for the Tobago that we are called to serve. It's a dream that we will have home ownership that Tobagonians can afford. And you should never be in a position that you can't afford to live here. It's a dream that when people are affected by natural disasters, you can immediately, without a whole heap of red tape, get help.
Our mandate is to provide an adequate standard of living for everyone, regardless of color, complexion, denomination, that is religious, or political persuasion.
And those who received grants were eager to begin the necessary work to improve their homes.
Yes, I thought they had forgotten me, but when I got the call to come today, I felt really elated. Yeah, I am not going to stick because I've been waiting for so long. Yeah, So I'm going to get my hands on material and begin work as soon as possible.
The check distribution ceremony was hosted at Shore Park Complex. It's time for a break, but up next, the newly installed board of the Tobago Tourism Agency shares some of its plans for Tobago. We'll tell you more when Let's Talk Tobago returns. Stay with us.
I decided to take the vaccine to first provide protection for myself and my family and the people around me, including my co-workers and everybody I come into contact with, including the public. In the course of my duties, I am heavily engaged in public discussion, public meets, and I do a lot of investigations in the public. So I decided, based on the empirical data provided and based on advice of my physician, that the vaccine is the way to go to protect us all. So, vax up, protection starts with us.
Staycations, airlifts, and sustainability. Those are some areas of focus for the new board of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, or TTAL. Omadara Mills caught up with Chairman Alicia Edwards to get the scoop on some of the agency's plans for tourism in Tobago. Here's more.
In the coming months, Destination Tobago will participate in a number of road shows and travel markets. This will ensure Tobago's source market partners are aware that the island is ready to welcome visitors and provide them with great memories. That's just one of the plans of the new 12-member board of directors at the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, TTAL. Another area of focus for the new board is making the most out of the airlift opportunities, especially the one coming out of the United States.
One of the things that we're hopping on is the fact that there's now a direct flight between JFK and Tobago. Previously, the agency had no direct marketing interaction or support in the US market, and we're working now to create a situation where we have a rep in the US market. The links, first of all, the diaspora demand, and also getting into just generic demand from that particular market.
And even as we look to attract more foreign visitors, the chairman of TTAL gives the assurance that our domestic market will not be neglected. So promoting staycations is another key factor in increasing visitor arrivals.
The second thing that we would be interested in is focusing a little more on domestic marketing. What COVID has shown us is that while it's all right for us to focus on the external market for tourism, we cannot get away from the staycations and the domestic demand that can help to buoy us through a future rough period.
Since the board's appointment about 3 months ago, there's been questions about the Tobago Beyond branding. Ms. Edwards says her team sees the valuable potential this label has for the island.
The Tobago Beyond Ordinary gives us an opportunity to build out and round out our marketing message to really showcase all the things that make Tobago special, or harvest, or culture, the way that we could just go and buy fresh fish, and all the things that just make my island beautiful. So we definitely will be working on using local content, using local influencers, more local music, more local shots, basically selling the destination from the eyes of a Tobagonian.
The new board will also continue to support the agency's sustainability strategies, like facilitating the Green Key and Blue Flag certification programs.
They have gotten the Green Key and they're working on the Blue Flag certification, and we think that if we're going to continue to sell ourselves as a Beyond Ordinary island, those international certifications will help us to position ourselves properly in that market, and also as well to perpetuate the narrative that we're actually doing the things that we say we want to be doing.
The board will also work with TTAL's employees as well as local stakeholders to strengthen the island's offerings to visitors. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Atlantic storms are not to be taken lightly. In fact, they can be downright devastating. That's why the Disaster Readiness Authorities and the first responders in Tobago are making sure the island can respond to emergencies brought on by natural disasters. And following recent weather activity, we look at how the island has been preparing. Here's more in this story.
Planning and preparation can make a huge difference, especially when it comes to getting ready for the hurricane season. The most recent reminder came on June 28th and 29th, with the Trinidad and Tobago Met Service announcing that the country had been placed on storm watch. Thankfully, the island was spared severe storm activity. However, the Tobago Emergency Management Agency TEMA and cooperating agencies were ready to respond to any resulting emergency.
Were we prepared? Yes, we were. We have been down this road already. It's not our first rodeo with a tropical storm level strength. We have the history of managing Hurricane Ivan, the November severe weather of 2004, and the following year, 2005, we had also the Tropical Storm Emily. All of these events we would have managed quite clearly. That we would have activated the Emergency Operations Center just about 24 hours ago, and during that period we would have received 11 reports so far as to what may have happened. During this window of operations, or this theater of operations, the leadership of having the Honorable Chief Secretary taking charge and leading this charge, it was very, very easy for us to coordinate this event. And that gave rise to a level of preparedness and readiness.
This rainy season is expected to be an active one, which will put emergency responders to the test. Mr. Stewart says his team takes the hurricane season seriously. He says they're prepared to manage emergency situations, and Mr. Stewart is calling on Tobagonians to prepare too, so they can be resilient in the face of a disaster. In addition, the island already has many volunteers who will support its efforts.
This is what gives rise to the CERT 1000 Strong program, which garner at this stage over 625 CERT registrants. This gives us the manpower that is so much needed, especially if we have what you may call a catastrophic event. So we are preparing Tobago for, and we want the Tobagonians themselves in all of the sectors, the private sector, the public sector, the community level, to build resilience going forward.
Tobago wasn't hard hit by the passing tropical wave. However, to give a report.
11 reports so far as to what may have happened. Among those 11 reports, they all happen in 11 different jurisdictions or villages across the island of Tobago. Some of which comprised of 2 roof reports, and most of them, 4 of them being fallen trees and impacting other areas. One of them would have been a house that collapsed completely, and that would be considered to be the most severe.
To ensure you're as ready as possible for any emergency, here's a few tips you can follow. Make sure you have a battery-operated radio. Secure important documents in a waterproof bag or container. Get a properly working flashlight and extra batteries. And of course, find out which emergency shelter is closest to you. I'm Kern De Freitas for Let's Talk Tobago.
Just like people and animals, plants can get sick. And when they do, you can take them to be diagnosed and treated just as you would visit a doctor. Umar Mills tells us about a clinic for plants that the public will soon be able to access. Here's this story.
I decided to see what the Plant Protection Unit's plant clinic is like. On this particular day, I brought samples of a few plants like chocolate mint and rosemary. Plant protection specialist Casey Marie Boucher Koon asked me a few questions, made several observations about the samples, then checked them out using a microscope and came up with a diagnosis. It turns out the chocolate mint has been infected with a soft scale insect, while the rosemary plant is infected with an armored scale insect. Casey Marie then gave me several recommendations for treating with the pests. That's the process clients can expect when they come to Plant Clinic Mondays, a service that will restart in July of this year.
Now that things have improved concerning COVID-19, we will now be reopening our plant clinics on the first Monday in July, which is the 4th of July 2022, and that is now going to be returning to the face-to-face format of the plant clinic setting. That clinic will be available from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Monday, except on public holidays, of course. The clinic serves to give you a real-time response to a pest or disease issue. So when you come into the clinic, you will get an answer to your question. You will get the recommendation to help you within a short space of time.
Plant Clinic Mondays will take place at the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development's head office. It's located on the corner of Milford Road and Sherwin Road. The mandate of the unit is to aid in food security by reducing crop losses brought on by pests and diseases. So in-person plant clinics is a great way to find out the state of plant health on the island.
What it also does for us on a national basis is that it's a form of soft surveillance. So something might be happening latently in the community, and because of the plant clinic, once people start reporting strange occurrences in terms of plant health issues early, we would be able to detect plant health issues at a faster rate, rather than waiting for an explosion of a said pest to know that we have a problem on the island.
But plant clinics aren't the only services provided by this unit. The plant protection specialist tells us of their other functions.
The services we provide to help farmers and growers alike are diagnostic field visits. That is where we come out to you depending upon a request. Most of our requests come via the extension department, or you can make direct requests to the plant protection unit. We also do some laboratory diagnostics. We also do plant clinics, and we are also responsible for surveillance and eradication exercises. We also do some training for farmers and home gardeners in the diagnosis of common pests and their management.
Even as the face-to-face plant clinic Mondays are to resume, people can still access the virtual plant clinics via WhatsApp. So if you have a plant problem or you want more information, you can call 482-7528. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
So we have to take another break, but do not go away. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. The Roxborough Police Youth Club is taking its activities outdoors once again. This time, the club is reintroducing its Night Football League, which is giving young residents yet another opportunity to occupy their time in a very meaningful way.
The Roxborough Police Youth Club has used the slowdown of the last 2 years to regroup, recollect and re-emerge as the club put on the Chief Secretary's Cup football competition. The league has been around for the past 25 years. It was born as a means of giving young people a positive outlet. Club leader Collis Hazel says the tournament has had the desired effect. He's happy to see it make its return.
Because we were faced with a lot of break-ins that were taking place in the night, we decided that we must do something to create leisure opportunities for people in the night so that they will not fall prey to social ills in society. And hence the reason why this competition was born.
Sport teaches us values like fairness, team building, discipline, inclusion and respect. Sport and recreation aid the holistic development of youth and for the greatest talents can provide a fulfilling career. This is why Chief Secretary Honorable Fali Augustine believes the league is beneficial to the Roxborough community.
It's important that we continue to use sports as an avenue through which we could develop communities, especially that subsector of young men. That subsector of young men who are most likely, statistically, to get into trouble. And so I want you all to play with your hearts out. I want you all to play clean, play honestly. I'm wishing you again all the best.
Special commendation were given to the players who exercised patience even after the hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
You, the footballers, without you, this competition could not have been possible. You have stood in the trenches and you have worked hard and you continue to play hard and you continue to support the league. And we are very grateful that you as community leaders have continued to see the success of sports and particular night football.
12 teams are participating in the league. The winners will walk away with the grand prize of $30,000. I'm Kern De Freitas for Let's Talk Tobago.
NLCB Buccaneers Steel Orchestra has reached an impressive milestone. The organization recently turned 55. It's been one of the most consistent steel orchestras on the island over the years, and so its 55th birthday was a fitting occasion to give thanks. We have the highlights in this story. The NLCB Buccaneers came alive last weekend as the Steel Orchestra celebrated its 55th anniversary with a Thanksgiving service.
55 years means that there is something done in the orchestra that was not done by you. It was done by Almighty God. So Thanksgiving must not be limited to this evening. It mustn't be limited to if we are called to give thanks, we give thanks. It must be a lifestyle.
According to Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation, Councillor Tashia Burris, the band remains resilient, consistent and well organized. She says this is illustrated in NLCB Buccaneers earning many titles, including the first place medium band in National Panorama 2013 and its record as a finalist for over 10 consecutive years.
Steel orchestras and other groups form the bedrock of our communities and have been responsible over the years for honing some of our best and brightest talents. They teach the values of commitment, discipline, love for community and country, and respect for oneself and others. Undoubtedly, the contribution of the Buccaneers Steel Orchestra to Tobago's cultural development and entertainment landscape is noteworthy.
I think the steel band could expand so much more effectively if I worship on Sabbaths, if on a Sabbath morning or on a Sunday morning at church, if we had more steel pans to mix with the conventional instruments to give the service that lift. And I want to encourage Buccaneers to consider that market. I'm making it public now.
Also bringing greetings on behalf of the Pan fraternity were Chairman Pan Trimbago, Beverly Ramsey Moore, and Chairman of Pan Trimbago, Tobago Region, Celicia James.
I am so elated. I'm so happy to be here celebrating with NLCB Buccaneers. You know, in everything we ought to give God thanks for his goodness. You know, his goodness just keep running down. Just keep running down over us. And for a steel orchestra to be here celebrating 55 years, it tells you that a lot has gone on in terms of the strength and the power of the leadership of this organization. Steel band organization is not an easy thing. All of them know that already.
A band with longevity, perseverance, with skilled and talented players, a pillar in their community. So cheers to NLCB Buccaneers to another 55 years.
Prayers were also delivered for the band and its executive. We've come to the end of yet another edition of Let's Talk Tobago, and as always, we thank you for watching. Please email us with your comments or queries about the program, and be sure to visit our website, like our Office of the Chief Secretary Facebook page, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For more information on Amblin Condo, you can contact Ambika at 759-0598 or email bikarjune@gmail.com. From our house to yours, I'm Davia Chambers, along with the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, wishing you a safe and fantastic week.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good
Good morning, morning. Good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It's 7 a.m. and this is the Tobago Updates morning show coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough. I am Julian Skeet.
And I am Rhea Richardson George, and this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning to Tobago, good morning Trinidad, those of you viewing us in the Caribbean, and those of you on the live. Good morning, good morning. Well, Julian, good morning to you.
Good morning, Rhea. Good morning, good morning. Beautiful, beautiful. I have Rhea back here in pink, folks. I know you may not be seeing the pink, but back here in pink. Beautiful as usual, Rhea.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back. It is wet and rainy outside, and chilly by our standards in the Caribbean, but nonetheless, we bring
good
the sunshine.
temperature for me. Good temperature for me.
Yes, we know that.
Beautiful morning, but it is indeed rainy outside. I found myself in terms of heading to studio, you know, really just kind of taking that time on the road, and you know everything, the rain, and so some people trying to move around and shift around, because that's our reality here in the region. It's either the rainy, you know, you either have rain or sun.
That's right.
That's what we're treating with here. Rhea, we would have also had interesting yesterday at the national level in terms of the protest activities. Taking place there on the BTAM and so on, and you know, persons responding and reacting, and you saw mixed views.
There are mixed views, Julian, and rightly so. Not everyone who was murdered over the weekend. Not all of the murders meant that persons were guilty or that they were all entirely innocent. But there's some elements of truth to all of the circumstances. But I'm saying here, why don't we see this type of protest action taking place on a more regular basis when other types of activities take place? And I'm not saying here that these persons were guilty. I'm saying here that why don't we see this type of action on a more regular basis?
And you know, you've seen some that indicated, you know, they're just lawless and they shouldn't be. But I don't know. I tend to see it from a little bit of a different perspective. When you are not of so much means and resources in this country, the question I ask is, what options do you have available to you? You know, and when we come to that, if I want to make a statement and make a point, and I come from the upper end of society, I'll engage an attorney. And I'll send you an attorney letter, right? If I am of a particular academic grouping or so, I'll write a busy letter and publicize it and send it to the editor.
But when you don't have those
means. When I don't have those kinds of means, this is one of the ways in which I can capture your attention. So some may not agree. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's an option that's available. All right, viewers, so at this point, we head on over to news in 90 seconds.
Julian, here's your news in 90 seconds for Tuesday, 5th July 2022. The Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development hopes to create a placement program for unemployment relief workers. The program involves training URP workers academically and vocationally as the first component. Next, a specially developed placement office will interface with the private sector and filter skilled URP workers into the labor force. For the URP workers hoping to become entrepreneurs, technical and financial support will be extended on a case-by-case basis. These measures are part of a new vision for URP towards moving people out of the program. Meanwhile, a 35-year-old man from Trinidad residing in Tobago pleaded guilty to indecent assault of a 16-year-old girl. According to police reports, the incident occurred around 9 a.m. on June 28. The victim was reportedly at the neighbor's home when the man passed by. The man is known to the victim. Following a police report, an arrest took place. The man appeared virtually before the Scarborough Magistrate Court and pleaded guilty to 1 count of indecent assault against the teenager. The court remanded him into custody to await sentencing. And of course, on the national news, Fires burned in Port of Spain yesterday because of protests by residents against recent killings at the hands of police officers. Debris piled onto the roadway on the Beetham Highway, Nelson Street and other areas in and around the city and was set on fire. The fires disrupted traffic in and out of the capital. Police wearing riot gear and members of the defense force cleared the debris and broke up the protests. 8 protesters were arrested. Meanwhile, Acting Commissioner of Police McDonald Jacobs assured the public that the process is in place to prosecute officers who are found guilty of abuse of power. And that was your news in 90 seconds, and it is back to you, Ria and Julian.
Much there,
Thank you,
Candice, for giving us our news there. Ria, a lot happening, you know, within our TNT space and right here in the Tobago space itself, a lot taking place. Ria, but at this point, Ria, we are excited to head on into our birthdays for today.
That's right. So we got some really great folks.
Right, so we got some birthdays on the lineup this morning. All right, and we start off the birthday celebrations this morning with Simoy Gordon. So sending a birthday shout out, happy birthday to Simoy Gordon, coming from the Tobago Updates family.
That is Akil Andrews. Akil celebrating her birthday. Akil, lots of love going out to you this morning. Have a really great day today.
Jody Alexis. All right, sending a happy birthday out to Judy Alexis. Wishing you a great day today.
Alina Williams is celebrating her birthday. Alina, lots of love going out to you. Have a really wonderful day. You look absolutely beautiful, my
Yes,
dear.
I got to join in this one as well for Dr. Alina Williams.
That's right, Doctor.
Wishing you a happy birthday and God's continued blessings. This lady looks familiar, Ria.
Quite familiar indeed. And this is Inspector Alicia Pigott, my schoolmate, doing lots of great things there in the Tobago space with the TTPS Tobago. So happy birthday going out to you. Love going out to you.
All right, and we have up on screen, just as it says on his chest, DJ Hawkeye Entertainment. It's your birthday. All right, and we want to wish you a happy birthday coming from the Tobago Updates family.
And the man himself, Mr. Earl Williams, celebrating her birthday. Earl Williams, happy birthday going out to you. I trust that you and T and Tech going to be celebrating later.
and you know, this is one of those loyal viewers as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Earl Williams tuning in there on a morning, catching up with the Tobago Updates morning show. Really want to wish you a happy birthday, Earl Williams. Trust that you have an enjoyable day. Ria, and I am told we have a main guest this morning on the lineup.
That's right.
Certainly one who brings a wealth of experience and knowledge and giving you that sense of then and bringing forward and making the comparisons with now. Who do we have up this morning, Ria?
First and former Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Ho Choi Charles. He's going to be on the program all morning long with us. And of course, we're going to be talking budget and other issues as it pertains to Tobago. Now, if you know this gentleman, Julian, and I know that you do, he is all things, anything Tobago.
Oh yeah, all things Tobago indeed, and we look forward to those discussions coming up in the rundown with Mr. Ho Choi Charles, our first Chief Secretary. And this morning I also want to send some congratulations out, Ria, and congratulations goes out to Bright Gems Preschool. Auntie Vanilla, Auntie Glenda, and the entire team out there. I want to wish you congratulations. They would have held their graduation ceremony, and I want to say well done. That took place at the Moravian Church. All those students coming out of Bright Gems. And I also want to send out some congratulations to Principal Lancaster at the St. Patrick's Anglican Primary School, and all those students that would have also participated in graduation this year. Commendations and kudos to each and every one of you, continuing to represent us, and we look forward to what we know would be continued good work coming from our boys and girls there coming out of preschool as well as primary school. And those are just some of the graduations that I had an opportunity to participate in, and I want to thank you very much for having me.
Julian, if I'm not mistaken, Bishop's High School has their graduation exercise on this morning.
Yes, I think
and
Bishop's is wrapping it.
Yes, and I have to say a special good morning going out to Michael Parrier and to Jamal Brown. Both boys are going to be graduating later on today. So, you know, I want to just take the opportunity this morning. I mean, amidst a lot of the others, so Kalia, Tony, Kalia, you know, congratulations going out to you guys, and love going out to you all, particularly from Osaze. So I just needed to say that this morning.
All right, and the Principal Ramnarayan and the entire team out there at Bishops, all the best and congratulations. We look forward to what I understand is going to be taking place at Movie Town. So it's certainly going to be a scene, it's going to be a movie. So we look forward to that experience. Indeed, that's scheduled to take place there for the Bishops High School and all the other high schools, primary schools, preschools that would have held your graduation exercise. We want to say kudos and congratulations to each and every one of you. Viewers, we want to thank you so much for joining us here at the Tobago Updates morning show. As we prepare to head on into our next segment, we want to remind you this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your life can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Excel Spa by Haley, where our highly trained staff are ready to deliver the top-class services in facial massages, waxing, nail enhancement and body treatment. We are ideally located at Coco Avenue, Susalands, Tobago. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor, or you can call us on 730-0149. Excel Spa by Haley. Relax, renew, and rejuvenate.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show. It's 7:12 a.m. Here on set. And just before we head on into this segment, one quick correction. I know Rhea and we were excited about the graduation. Students, parents, don't panic. It's not today. Do not panic. Students and parents, don't panic. It's not today. A little mix up. The graduation exercise takes place on Thursday. So the graduation exercise takes place on Thursday for Bishops High School, and I think our information is accurate to see this is the final week for most schools in terms of the graduation exercise celebrations and activities. So yes, don't panic, folks. No, it's not today. The graduation exercise is carded for Thursday. All right, and thank you very much again, and my congratulations all the same to Principal Ramnarayan and the entire team out there, and I know is certainly working hard to ensure that they deliver an excellent graduation ceremony. Viewers, at this point we are heading on into the segment with Mr. Ho-Choi Charles, Chief Secretary, and in fact the very first Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. Good morning and welcome to you, Mr. Charles.
Good morning, my brother.
One of the things I want to start with...
And good morning to all those who are participating in your program.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I want to start with a distinction, and I'm getting into the protocols here a little bit. Some say Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. Some say Chief Secretary of Tobago. Is it one and the same? You know, as some say, make the comparison. We don't say the Prime Minister of the government. We say the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Just give us some quick schooling in that area.
I'm just saying to you that you don't say not the Prime Minister of the government. You don't say Prime Minister of the Parliament, because the institution is the Tobago House of Assembly. So what you're saying is that the person is the Chief Secretary of that institution. It should be Chief Secretary Tobago, but the law says Tobago House of Assembly. The law says Chief Secretary Tobago House of Assembly. But we have to make sure, as you know, context is what shapes meaning. And we in Tobago must make sure that people do not tell us how we should operate and what we should do in Tobago. The person is the Chief Secretary of Tobago.
The Chief Secretary of Tobago. And as the very first Chief Secretary of Tobago, we just had the presentation coming forth from the new administration taking office and presenting their very first budget. What were your initial statements before we even get into the details of the discussion? As I've been asking all, you know, what was your initial impression after hearing the budget presentation and being able to internalize?
The draft estimates that have been submitted, we call it budget in Tobago. And I have to be very careful what I say, you know. And I listened to the, in fact not listen to, because I didn't hear it at all, the challenge. So I could not listen to the budget at all. I was in a place where I could not have listened to the budget. And it was an emergency. So I went and collected a copy of the budget, and I read it through. And what it contains is part of a development plan, 15-year development plan that was prepared before. Absolutely nothing new, except that they would have gone a little too far in the details. And I don't want to share that with you now. I am going to share that with the Chief Secretary. They have gone too far. You don't telegraph your shots to those who may not be on your side. I don't want to say enemy, I don't want to say opponent, and so on. People like us who have been in politics long and would have journeyed a long time would tell you, especially dealing with Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad versus Tobago, you do not say too much. Because I think it was a French author, philosopher, Molière, I think is the name, who says, the only thing government cannot do is to make a man into a woman and a woman into a man. I want to leave you with that. The only thing a government cannot do is to make a man into a woman and a woman into a man. Everything else they can do. So if you telegraph your shots, they know your strategy is no longer a strategy. And they can put hindrances and obstruction in your way when you're ready to move. And I've seen that based upon my 40-something years journey in Tobago. So they would have gone a little too far in details in the budget, in what we consider the budget. But other than that, it's part of the development plan that we would have prepared for the people of Tobago.
Based on your efforts particularly, along with others, to be able to get us to the point
I just wanted, let me just go ahead. Except for one or two little things inside here that I would need to, not to talk on the air, but to chat with the Chief Secretary on. I need to chat with them on that. For example, like the review of the, in fact, review is not the word, is amendment to the Foreign Investment Act.
And speaking to land license.
The land, no. One part of it I agree with, the rest I need to chat with them on that, which is that very part where the Minister of Finance is the operator of that act, who will grant the land license, and that should not really be so.
So that's
since
one of the areas that we want to
Assembly.
chat on. So as you
so the other area, the other area that was mentioned about repeal or whatever, I want to explain that to them.
So you are not in support of the repeal?
No, totally inappropriate. You have to remember, I'm just saying this to you, you have to remember that what that act, the Foreign Investment Act replaced, was the Alien Landholding Act. You know what that meant? A lot of foreigners own almost all the lands in Tobago and the estate, and that was not done in Mr. London and the time, and Mr. Robinson. And that was repealed and replaced by what? Let me take our time and call it. By what? The Foreign Investment Act. Pay attention to what it says. And that meant that after that act was passed, lands in Tobago, because you could not hold these lands for speculation. Foreign people own all these lands here for speculation, most of them British, coming from the old colonial past. We passed that act and called it what? Not alien landholding, but foreign investment. The act was intended to bring foreign investment so that people from outside would have been able to come and invest in Tobago, and they would, of course, they would have been able to purchase land in Tobago and so on. And the law says that you have to report this land, the nationality of the person that is buying the land must report it. But isn't a key? Just is the key. This could be told to the public. It was intended that if you are a foreigner, whether you're Germany, American, European, whatever, you have to see what nationality you are, how much land you are going to be getting, 1 acre for housing, for residential, 5 acre for business and so on. You cannot buy it in TT dollars. You get it? If you're a foreigner, you say you're coming to do foreign investment, and you are from the US or something, US dollars must be paid for the land that you are buying in Tobago. So it was intended to do that and to keep control of it.
So you want to be very careful in that, in terms
I'm not saying more.
In that regard.
Yes. So we have to be very careful about what we do. I have always said to people, don't ever remove a fence until you know the reason it was put up or the purpose of which it was put up. I want to repeat that slowly. Do not remove a fence. You meet a fence up, don't move it unless you know the reason that fence was put up. You never could tell. That fence could have been put up there to prevent tiger and lions from eating you.
So, Mr. Charles, one of the other areas we want to chat on this morning
looks
at the Chief Secretary and Secretary for Finance would have premised his budget bearing in mind the dispute resolution, which you would have obviously been, along with others, an integral part of in terms of creating what would have been...
The architect.
That, right. In terms of creating what would have been that bracket, the lower limit just over 4% and the upper limit. The Chief Secretary would have premised his presentation looking at just about 3.97 billion, which he indicated is an estimate of just about 6.9% of what one anticipates might be a national budget of approximately 57 billion or so. What are your thoughts in terms of that premise and that guide, looking at the upper limit, as opposed to what might just be a larger figure per se?
Well, as you know, the Tobago Assembly Act make provision for the Assembly to take the government to a commission. You don't want to go into the details now. It's in the law, section 57 to 60 something. You need to study that, You all on television and radio need to study these documents. And I would have triggered that and taken the government. Have you ever read the case that we put up?
So I'm aware in terms of coming forward specific to how you would have determined, for example, the upper and lower limit.
I'm saying there was a commission which was put in place, and the law says that the commission should consist of 2 persons appointed by the Chief Secretary in Tobago and 2 by the Prime Minister. And the chairman of that commission would be the ombudsman of the country. It was Justice Idu at the time. And we selected our people. The 4 people on the committee, the ombudsman as chairman. And it's very important to say these things, The ombudsman as chairman, the government would have selected 2 former judges, appeal court judges that retire, Justice Ram Logan and Justice Desile, and we would have selected 2 persons from Tobago, Dr. Banas James and Mr. Russell Martineau, Senior Counsel. That was the commission. And the commission would have considered the case that we would have put up and would have agreed and recommended that Tobago should not be given less than, I just paraphrasing, I have the report right here, you know, but I don't want to go into it, 4.03% of the national budget, up to a high of 6.9%. We know what we did there. And the 4.03% was just the percentage of the population of Tobago to the national population.
Correct.
What we did there, we were actually preparing a case for the world court, you know. Because if you read a budget for Trinidad and Tobago, you say we working side by side. You could not allocate in a national budget a greater percentage per head, you know, per capita for Trinidad and a lower percentage for Tobago. Before that, Tobago was getting only 2.5% of the national budget. So we make sure that that minimum was put there, which was Tobago at that time was 4.03% of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. You couldn't go below that because we have seen that.
What was the rationale, Mr. Charles, for the upper limit? Because
we
one would anticipate you'd want to get as much as you can.
No, I'm saying to you, at that time, that was the percentage, I'm saying, of the national budget that we would have required in order to do our development program in Tobago. So and the recommendation of the DRC says we should review, that is part of the recommendation, you know. Trinidad and Tobago should review that. You can't go below the minimum, but you should review that because you could have gone up, you know. From year to year, it has never been reviewed because nobody. I lost the government in 4 years. And in fact, the report came, the date of the report was the 14th of September 2000. So December was the general election. Yes. I just want to just put this in context. And by January of 2001, so in less than 3 months, I lost the government.
Correct.
And 21 years, you know, others would have been in power in Tobago. We have not reviewed that. Tobago requires much more than 6.9% now.
So would you say that that's one of the course of actions that should be considered by the current administration in terms of the reviews that have not taken place? Is that an avenue available?
It's in the law. Because the report was taken to Parliament because the law says that the report should be submitted to the Chief Secretary and to the Prime Minister and mandate us that the Chief Secretary should take that report to the House of Assembly. By the 28th day of September, I made a complete statement. That is on soft copy, hard copy of it available to Tobago and Trinidad. And oh boy God. And the Prime Minister in Trinidad, which was Mr. Pandey at the time, did not carry that to the Parliament until October of that year. I was carried to Parliament October of that year. And you know what happened? The financial year of the country is from the 1st of October to the 30th of September. That's the financial year of Trinidad and Tobago. So I carried mine in September so that they could have incorporated that in the budget. Mr. Pandey did not, the Prime Minister of Trinidad did not carry it. That was deliberate, you know, until October. So the budget went. The budget went. So that is why I knew that Tobago was going to now benefit by at least 4.03% of the national budget and not the 2.5% we were getting. I went and make a show off in the house that the days of mendicancy of Tobago is over. You must get a copy of the statement and so on. But I was so wrong. So the first tranche of what Tobago won, and to move Tobago from the 2.5% we have been getting over the years to a minimum of 4.03% came when Mr. London became Chief Secretary in October of 2001. And that is how Tobago was able to get over $40 billion in the last 20 years.
in the last 20 years. Viewers, we're getting the perspectives here from our first Chief Secretary, and have no fear, there's going to be a follow-up segment. So we're going to be hearing about some of the strategies that Mr. Charles would have utilized working with much less money then and being able to extend and develop our road networks and so on here in the Tobago space within his administration. We wait to hear some of the strategies and so that might have been utilized. Did they engage in public-private partnerships to make things happen here in the Tobago space? And we also definitely going to look forward to some further perspectives here from Mr. Charles, even strategies in going forward as to how we can't have him here for an entire morning and not speak about autonomy and self-governance and the current drive and the creation or the development rather of the office of the Deputy Chief Secretary. But folks, all those further discussions will be happening coming up as we continue the conversation in a later segment with Mr. Huchoy Charles, and he'll be chatting with Rhea Richardson George. But just before we head off there, we're heading into our good stuff for this morning. All right, our good stuff for this morning. And this morning we have the opportunity to congratulate our new Junior Tourism Secretary. Miss Janae Brathwaite is the new Junior Secretary for Tourism. Last Friday, the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation hosted Tobago's Tourism Youth Congress. It was the first Tourism Youth Congress since the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. Janae's reign will last from 2022 to 2023. Firstly, students were required to present a 3 to 5 minute speech based on either agri-tourism, experiential tourism, or community tourism. For the second question, competitors had to think on their feet when they were each given a mystery question. Janae kept her composure, answered fluently for both segments, and emerged victorious. Bishop's High School placed second and Speyside High third. Janae will represent Tobago at the Caribbean Tourism Youth Congress in the Cayman Islands that will take place later on in this year. And having had the opportunity to be present at this session, the Youth Congress 2022, really want to send special congratulations to our new Junior Secretary of Tourism, Janae, and all other schools that would have participated. An exceptional job, and my commendations as well to the Secretary, Assistant Secretary, and your Program Coordinator and Administrator for definitely leading another initiative as we continue to positively engage our young persons. Congratulations, Janae Brathwaite. All right, viewers, we want to thank each and every one of you connecting with us via TV. Gael, those of you joining us on M&E TV, those of you connecting with us and listening to us via radio, Smash Radio, and Street 91.9 FM, and those of you connected with us on TobagoUpdates.com or YouTube channel, and those of you joining us on social media via Facebook. We want to remind you this is your opportunity and your chance to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Good morning. This world is getting so cold. I wanna keep running like a soldier. Somebody must have touched my soul.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Staying Alive, the benefit concert, Saturday, 9th July at O2 Park, Chagaramas. The Giants of Trinidad and Tobago on one stage.
Come and celebrate with us as we celebrate life and give thanks for the music. And we go down like kitty kill, kitty kill, kitty kill, kitty kill, kitty kill. We have a style like kitty kill, kitty kill, kitty kill.
Guess the band.
You want to know where we coming from? Say you want come look for me. Yeah. If you're willing to have some fun, I could keep you company.
Staying Alive, the benefit concert.
There is nowhere else in the world you could see all of these giants on one stage.
Guess the band: Machelle Montano, Freetown Collective, Three Canal, Orange Sky, plus many more artists to be announced. Tickets available online at islandetickets.com, all Häagen-Dazs outlets nationwide, and Ojo World, Saturday, 9th July at O2 Park, Shagaramas. Conquering all the obstacles.
Staying Alive, the benefit concert.
It's a different type of thing down there. And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Viewers, welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We are still chatting this morning with the first and the former Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Ho-Choi Charles, as we continue the discussion on the THA budget estimates and what do we do next. Now, Mr. Charles, during your interview with Julian just a little while ago, you hinted to sharing with the Tobago public the fact that you were able to employ strategies with less resources, with less financial resources. Give us an idea of some of the things that you utilize. What did you do? How did you manage?
I told Julian, it's not good to telegraph all your shots, and your shots are your strategies. And since I am talking to now the present administration about the way forward, some of those strategies are still relevant up to today, but I can share one or two with you.
Yes.
I just want to clear this up first of all, though, that this 4.03% of the national budget, up to, that is the window that we have, that range, 4.03% to 6.9% of the budget. Remember, we did not benefit from it. My administration didn't get part of that,
No.
I was getting 2-point-something%. We won it.
You never got the 4.
Not even the 4.03%. So I ran Tobago and operate Tobago with $300 million per year. The present administration now, even if getting over $600 million every 3 months. Because 2-point-something billion they're getting per year now for a little while now. They're getting over $600 million every 3 months. I run Tobago with $300 million every 12 months.
How did you do it?
That is one of the strategies that I don't want to share, except to say to you, because I'm talking to the group. I am talking to the Chief Secretary now. And I want to say to you that it's so important that we understand government. Not even the government of Trinidad understand that strategy. People ask me that all over. Even Dr. London asked me that one day after you're out of office, down at Moorhead. And I said, you all have to learn this thing. I teach you economics. You know the housewives in Tobago were the greatest economists in Tobago?
Well, we saw the Chief Secretary employing the advice of the ordinary housewife as he focused on the pre-budgetary consultation.
Well, let me just say this to you quickly on that point. There are things that we need to do. You cannot operate outside of a structure. That is important. That even leadership must have a structure to function. And all my structure comes from the Word of God, which is the Bible. You know, God created me. You heard me say that down there at the program.
You constantly referred to that.
That was not joke. These are serious things. Government without God is guesswork and messy business. Government without God is guesswork and messy business. So the structure that he put in place, because the Bible is our manual, and it tells us how we should operate. He created the heavens and the earth was without form. It has no structure. And he put a structure in place before he created man on the last day. The last thing he did was to create man on the 6th day. So he put a structure in place and then put man to operate the structure. We fail, as you know, we don't want to go into that. The same thing happened on December 10th, 1996. The Tobago House of Assembly, the one we operate now, come into operation, right? But there was no structure in place. We had to put it in place. So we were now putting the structure in place to allow the assembly to discharge its function. We lost the government before the structure was finished. And for 21 years, somebody else took over. And the structure was not put in place. This is why Tobago couldn't develop. This is why Tobago in this place. And I want to help this new administration to really put that structure, put the structure in place to deliver. We were delivering while the structure was being put in place because we know. And that is why we were able to do all of this, give you all scholarship, training people, the human resource in Tobago to be able to help us to deliver the functions given to us under the Tobago Assembly Act.
Now, Mr. Charles, I know you to be a man of great knowledge, good information, a wealth of information. Is it that you offered your services to this present administration? Did you ever, I'm asking here, did you ever offer this wealth of expertise to the previous administration? Were you ever asked? Were you ever called upon? How did it
Let me answer you quickly.
Yes.
I did. Mr. London called me in 2013 after he was in office for 13 years. He took over, call it 12 years. He called me. After he wrote the government when they won all 12 seats, you remember that? They won all 12 seats, he called me. After he did that, right, the president said he wanted two opposition councillors, you remember that well? Yeah. And then he called me. And I sat with him and asked him, what do you want opposition to do? Do you have a government? You only want opposition when you have government, to be a check and balance on you. And that is how the forum of political parties were prepared. That was my idea. And we put that in place and prepared the document that we all were debating last year, that is still before the parliament, that is what Tobago requires. So the self-government issue is key to the structure. Now, I would use the present Tobago Assembly Act, this one year, and make Tobago a paradise and finance Trinidad, even without changing one aspect of this law. But without that, you need the self-government. We need it in any case. You need it in any case to prevent our children and those who are coming after us, our successors, from having to fight the same battle over and over. So I actually offered, and my services are free. Let me repeat that. My services to the PNM while they were there, in order to fix Tobago, is free. Was free. It was free for the amount of years. We prepared a document, it went to Trinidad, still before the parliament. I also offered this administration my services gratis, free. Also, what did we do? Strategy. The first thing we did is to write a development plan for Tobago. And this is key, very key to what we're doing. We wrote a development plan. We didn't sit in an office and write that. The people of Tobago approved that development plan. The final approval of the plan, we did that at Signal.
The consultation.
The final aspect of the plan, you know, Dr. James came back here. And so on. It was a whole team I put in place in 1997. And we wrote a development plan. The people of Tobago said, this is what we require to make Tobago a competitive place and to pay its way in the world that has been created. We wrote that. And what we are going to do, every 4 years, you know, the assembly term is 4 years. Out of that plan, for every term, we are going to take 4 years out of the people's plan and implement it. And I wanted to say the same thing to the administration here now. What is required for Tobago is a vision. The people of Tobago said this is what we want. And the people of Tobago now will vote for a party, or vote, because party is the machinery, you know, that we have to contest an election in order to develop the plan and to implement the plan for them. We are going to make sure that every 4 years, we take 4 years out of that 15-year plan and implement it. This is what we did. This is exactly what we did. And we were not talking party, because the plan was not the NAR plan. It was the people plan. The same thing must happen now. We must not be hearing nothing about the PDP this, the PNM that.
Go ahead.
The people of Tobago have a plan. And they voted a party into office in order to implement their plan. So it's not PDP or PNM or TPT or anybody like that. And if they can't implement the people's plan, the people must remove them and put another party in government to implement their plan. So I wanted to share that with this new administration and say, stop this nonsense about PDP. Stop this nonsense about TPT.
Time to move forward.
Because we have a plan that the people say, this is the plan to carry us where we want to be.
All right.
And we just, the people voted you to implement that plan. Huh? You get the message?
Yes.
So this divisiveness about party this, I am PDP this, and I am PNM this, must stop.
Now, part of the plan is autonomy for Tobago.
Right.
You have been championing the cause for autonomy for Tobago for years. For years.
Mm-hmm.
How much closer are we to date to achieving Tobago's autonomy?
That's one of the matters I'm to discuss with this unity, because the key, because your power is important. All your power in Trinidad, and I always take time to explain that to people. You know what is power? Power is your ability or your capacity to influence or to determine your destiny. If you don't have that power, you can't do it. Because you want to do something in Tobago, know somebody in Trinidad will say you can't do that. You don't have no power. So the autonomy is to give us that power. And that power means that you must have the power to pass laws in the country, because as government, you cannot implement any policy decision that you make except you have the law-making power with that. Because law is the tool for the implementation of government policy or public policy.
And let's just put a comma here. Now we have Mr. Duke in Trinidad setting up office, fighting. I want to get your thoughts on that. Not fighting, but setting up office and seeking to have that Tobago stance in Trinidad.
I'm not so sure what they're doing here, but let me just say this to you. I hear that as a new idea. It's not a new idea. Well, let me just divide it.
It's not a new idea. Has it ever happened before?
I'm telling you. Remember, I was running Tobago with 300 million. We started to set up. We started to set up in 2000. We now putting the structure in place in Tobago. We now saying that the same thing that's going to be happening abroad, where you're going to have somebody from the THA. In fact, it happened already in the embassies abroad to see about Tobago thing, grants and these things come up. But in Trinidad, we started to prepare and outfit the office in Bretton Hall in Trinidad. Hello, as the Tobago office in Trinidad. So this is not new. But I understand that he's doing something else. I'm not sure. So these are things that I wanted to have clear. I understand that they're running the PDP to contest elections in Trinidad. That's not Tobago's function. The chief secretary.
So you're not in agreement with this. Foolishness.
I am just saying foolishness, and don't let me discuss the detail of that. When I meet with them, I'll discuss that detail with them. But that is utter foolishness. Tobago office in Trinidad should be an office, should be able to see about Tobago's business in Trinidad. Our two reps in the parliament should not be doing what they're doing now, as you know. They should be Tobago's ambassador. Their documentation, we prepared on that, There are soft copies all over the world, You all are not paying attention to nothing we were saying, I'm saying to you, the two representatives from Tobago must be our ambassadors in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago to see about Tobago's autonomy, its freedom and its rights. Not to go down there to join another political party to do their wishing, their bidding. So that is what the office in Trinidad of Tobago should be, and to help to facilitate that. But the way it is now, as you know, two representatives belong to another party and so on, and another problem.
I need to ask a question.
You go ahead.
Why are you not in favor of the PDP contesting the seats in Trinidad?
I don't want to get down into the personal.
Just one reason.
No.
Just one reason.
You notice I just said the reason is foolishness.
Well, the foolishness.
I don't want to.
What about it? I know you have your thoughts.
Let me ask you. We are talking about what? Tobago having autonomy. Tobago having its self-government. What would make them different from the PNM or the UNC? I am asking you, what will make them different from them? If we are talking about Tobago must have its autonomy, where Tobago will determine what is best for Tobago, and you going and contest down there, are we talking autonomy?
But did the NAR not do the same thing?
No. The NAR was a national party. Okay. The NAR was a national party, and as you know, we would have started in Tobago to have our own regional council. We don't have time to discuss these things, That's how the PNM were able to come up with a regional council, That conversation took place with me and Stretch, when I became chief secretary.
The late Rennie Dumas.
Rennie Dumas. I became chief secretary. We launched the Writing Ready Tobago Development Plan in 1997. That's about February 28, 1997. Like 2 months or so after I become chief secretary. And while we were down in works department, Randy was talking to me and I said, well, you all dead, you know, as B&M. You all can't come back in Tobago. And he said, boy, we may have to change the name of our party. I could share this in public. We may have to change the name of our party or do like you all, because we were regional council of the NAR. Until we move back completely and move completely away from that. So he said they had either change the name PNM or do a regional council. So the Tobago Council of the PNM started from there with them. So people say, well, okay, fine. If you all are NAR and you all are national and you have a council here and you all are Tobagonians running that council, PNM could also have a council. And if we could have Mr. London and Stretch and all these fellas there, that is how you are able to get a bite into the Tobago place, you know, or else Tobago didn't want them. So when I tell people, don't bring back the PNM because they're dead, they can't come back. You remember that story in 2013? You and Colston? You shock. And I say the same thing. And I tell Dennis and all of them, please, don't try to resurrect the dead. You're not Jesus. You're not Jesus. Don't try to bring back the dead. You should form another Tobago thing because that can't come back again, you know, in Tobago. And if they talk to me, I will chat with them too, you know. Not as PNM, but form a thing because the PDP, as I said, is not it. I want to say that, you know. And that is why I said to you, stop the nonsense about dividing Tobago into parties. The people write the plan. You are now given an opportunity to operate the people plan, operate it. And if you do well, they're going to put you back to operate it. If they don't do well, the people are going to remove you and put another party in place to operate the people plan. You get the depth of that message? We're not dividing Tobago. We are one Tobago voice.
All right. Is that your closing comment?
Pardon me?
Is that your closing comment?
We need to fix the autonomy question because that is the key. And the matter you asked me the question, I'm saying the matter is before the Parliament, and it is for Tobago now, and that is the conversation I want to continue to have with the Chief Secretary and others, that we need to deal with that matter like urgently, right now, in order that Tobago would have its autonomy, so that we could be able to determine our space without any interference coming out of Trinidad while we still remain a nation. And when that happens, Ria, Tobago, I am sure, will be the envy or love of the world.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure chatting with Mr. Ho Choi Charles. You know, never a dull moment. And I tell you, for those of you out there who need the information, this is a man whose feet you need to sit at to learn from. I kid you not. All right, but we are heading over now into Tobago back in the day. And Mr. Charles, you because you're on set with me this morning, you have an opportunity. Yes, take a look at the photo on screen, and maybe you can assist us here. Tobago back in the day. Where is this?
I don't know. I can't. I have to. You meeting somebody need to tell me. Who is that?
Tobago back in the day.
I tell you. Where we should have had a new Tobago, a new Scarborough, a new everything, you know. By now, 20-something years that I've gone, Tobago would have been a place where we financed Trinidad, you know, from 2 projects, you know.
But there is still hope, yes?
Yeah.
There is still hope.
I am saying that.
Yes.
Because we're still alive.
That's right.
And this is why I tell people that victory in politics alone cannot create a strong society, a strong nation.
Yes.
Victory in politics alone cannot create a strong society or a strong nation. That is why you require, as I said, you need to put that structure in place so that you could be able to deliver.
Okay. So we have designated is saying here that is the hospital by the fort. Eterem Salgood is saying Botanics. Tracy Lyon says Uptown Scarborough. Alicia George, Tita, good morning, says Fort King George. Courtney Phillips, Fort King George. Leila Louis, the old hospital at Fort King George. I'm going with the old hospital at Fort King George, and that's back in the day, Tobago back in the day.
You remember that first building on that side there?
Can we pull up the picture again?
Let's
pull up the photo.
That side was what used to be the house on the boat.
Which building?
Down on that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
You called it the?
You remember you called it the poorhouse?
The poorhouse?
Yeah, you don't know the name.
That.
And then we reconverted that into an office. The first building has
yes, yes, and that's on your right.
On the right thing going up, the corner, yeah.
Well, that's it. You know, it was actually, and I'm glad that you cleared that up, because somehow I pictured, I sort of pictured it was a little further onto the fort, not so
it's
close.
Good right up, eh?
Yeah.
Just remember the old business on the right hand side going up there. And
Definitely.
as you know, we put something on the top.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you again, Mr. Huchoy Charles, for being with us on the program. Tobago, we are heading over into Tobago Notes before we wrap up. So over to Tobago Notes.
The 2021-2022 fiscal year is nearing its end. As we speak, the Tobago House of Assembly is already conducting pre-budget consultations. That's why we have decided to take to the streets to find out what wishes you have for the upcoming financial year. Let's go.
I'd like to see a better bus service to go to the country. We need to get the expense down, because you're working, you're not, your salary is the same and everything going up sky high. So we need better infrastructure and better management. So I hope that they would manage the country, the island better.
I'm from Charlottesville, and we just catch with tail sometimes to get transportation. And we need better service. Better service. We need the food prices to drop. Everything just gone up. Money is not there and everything just gone up. You're going to grocery today, tomorrow you're going next day, everything gone up. Every day is a new price. And people have to live.
My expectation is for the government of Trinidad and Tobago to do better where food prices are concerned.
And Tong will say gratuity. Everybody is interested in gratuity. So too am I and my colleagues. Yeah, gratuity it is.
While the 2023 THA budget request moves ahead for further assessment, the public will still have the chance to offer suggestions via social media and other platforms catering for stakeholder engagement.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
And that's a wrap for us here at the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Viewers, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Yes, Max James is saying here, yes, you are correct. It is the old hospital. Thank you so much for that. So we're wrapping up here and we're saying goodbye to you. And we want to thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, tomorrow, Wednesday, it's the youth program. The youth hosts are on. We've got Aaliyah, Dwayne, and Janae on tomorrow morning, and you don't want to miss tomorrow's show. So we're heading over to GMT with Candace and lots of great and exciting and informative interviews. So we say goodbye on behalf of Julian Skeet and myself. We say goodbye. Have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wear your mask, sanitize, and socially distance. We'll see you.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denasia. Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we stronger.
welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region, with a perfect conversation to complement your morning routine. I am Candace Jackson. The Division of Infrastructure, Quarries, and Urban Development hopes to create a placement program for unemployment relief workers. The program involves training URP workers academically and vocationally as the first component. Next, a specially developed placement office will interface with the private sector and filter skilled URP workers into the labor force. For the URP workers hoping to become entrepreneurs, technical and financial support will be extended. The measures are part of the new vision for URP towards moving people out of the program. A 35-year-old man from Trinidad residing in Tobago pleaded guilty to indecent assault of a 16-year-old girl. According to police reports, the incident occurred around 9 a.m. on June 28th. The victim was reportedly at the neighbor's home when the man passed by and squeezed her buttocks. The man is known to the victim. Following a police report, an arrest took place. The man appeared virtually before the Scarborough Magistrate Court and pleaded guilty to 1 count of indecent assault against the teenager. The court remanded him into custody to await sentencing. And now nationally, fires burned in Port of Spain yesterday because of protests by residents against recent killings at the hands of police officers. Debris was piled onto the roadway on the Beetham Highway. Now street and areas around the city set on fire. The fires disrupted traffic in and out of the capital. Police were in riot gear and members of the defense force of the protests. 8 protesters were arrested. Meanwhile, Acting Commissioner of Police McDonald Jacobs told the public that the process is in place to prosecute officers if found guilty of abuse of power. And that was the news in 90 seconds. And of course, a lot of our news right now is, encapsulated in those protests that happened yesterday, because, quite a bloody weekend. In terms of killings by police officers, there's a constant battle between residents, in Beetham and all those against the police. And of course, we have that report coming out of the PSA just a few days ago stating that there was a couple of incidents, power in them. I know the police right now says that they are doing the necessary investigations. The officers named in those reports have been put on desk duty and awaiting the final investigation by the police themselves. But in the meantime, we're going to go to a quick break and then we'll be right back.
Our national borders, our first step to security, but a possible access point for guns, drugs, crime. If it does not look right, do the right thing. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously. 800-8477. Report possible border crime.
Excel Spa by Haley, where our highly trained staff are ready to deliver the top class services in facial massages, waxing, nail enhancement and body treatment. We are ideally located at Coco Avenue, Susalands, Tobago. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor, or you can call us on 730-0149. Excel Spa by Haley. Relax, renew, and rejuvenate.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, of course. We are here speaking this morning towards the intended removal of the mask regulations. And just before we get started into that conversation, I'm just giving you an idea of what the latest COVID-19 figures are for Tobago, of course. And this is as a result, as of yesterday. And they only had 2 new reported cases yesterday, bringing the total active cases to 105. And currently there are 11 patients in hospital. 6 of those are fully vaccinated, whilst 5 are unvaccinated. So far, we've had no deaths for this year, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. But the total amount of deaths from since March 2020 is that of 272 in Tobago, and we've had a total recovered patients of 9,673. Now, joining me to speak about what's been going on with COVID-19 and of course that mask regulation is the Secretary of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, Dr. Faith B. Israel. Special good morning and welcome to you, Doctor.
Good morning, Candice. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. So the report I got very late last night because they come out at 10 p.m. We have about 5 new official cases, and it's important to state that these are the official cases. That does not mean we only have 5 new cases on the island. We've had no death yesterday or up to last night. There was 1 death, I think, within the last couple days that was recorded. So we still have deaths, but they're few and far between. Usually those individuals have some kind of comorbidity or some other kind of issue that has caused them to not be able to survive the infection that they had. So I think we're in a good place. We are going somewhere. We are going in a better direction, and I'm happy that this is where we are at this point.
Alright, so now I know you're one of those persons who have said that even though that wearing a mask and so on is extremely important in our protection against COVID-19, it's one of those things that you don't particularly like. And I just want to know, from hearing the Prime Minister on Saturday stating that by mid-July we can see some removal of that mask regulation, perhaps not a total removal, but less of a regulations. What are your opinions and how are you feeling about that announcement?
Well, as a person or as a Secretary for Health, because I have 2 very different answers. As a regular human being, I was like, yes, thank you, because I'm so sick of it. Yes, I have said it multiple times. I'm sick of it. As Secretary with responsibility for health, I'm thinking, I really do hope that even though it is not mandatory, the individuals who, particularly those who think they are ill, who still have flu-like symptoms, please, you still wear your mask, even if it may not be mandatory. Because we are in a situation where several things have happened. One, we have a high level of immunity in Trinidad and Tobago, throughout the world. We've gotten immunity because a lot of people have actually been vaccinated, but we've also gotten immunity because a lot of people have actually gotten COVID and have developed what we classify as natural immunity. So there are those 2 things happening. In addition, what we also are seeing is that the virus itself seems to be weakening. The virus itself seems to be weakening. So those 2 things happening together would result in us having less cases generally, which is kind of what we're seeing. And even the cases that we do have, we are seeing that they are not as dangerous, or it's not as severe. People aren't necessarily going to the hospital and ending up in the ICU and that kind of thing with the cases that we are seeing now. So those 2 things make it a little easier, now we can say, let us relax it a little bit. And of course, we always have to balance the what do we need to do versus what the economy needs, which is part of the situation as well.
So, I mean, how concerned or how precautious we should be as people, going forward with this new information?
So we should not just throw everything out. We shouldn't just throw everything out. We should still keep washing our hands, because that is something. I hope that people are not washing their hands simply because we told you to wash your hands. I hope you've been washing your hands because your hands dirty and you need to wash your hands. Exactly, good hygiene. So keep doing that. keep ensuring that if you feel ill, particularly if you feel like you have the traditional flu-like symptoms or that kind of thing, that you keep yourself away, because you could be one of those. Remember, we still had deaths, we still have cases, that may actually end up in the hospital, as not as many, but just in case you are one of those people, don't take it for granted, or don't just throw out everything. If you have a child that has gotten sick, that is another thing that's critical for us to remember. If you have a child that got COVID, watch that child. They may have recovered, but they may get Miss C in the end. Which, you know, we were talking about the fact that we've had at least 2 confirmed cases of Miss C in Tobago over the last couple months. So those are things for you to still keep your eyes open about. Don't just throw out everything. Yes, we are trying our best to go back to normal, whatever that means. Yes, we have to do what we need to do to get the economy up and running again. Yes, we have to do what we need to do. So the other thing is, I think what the Prime Minister also recognizes, that when he left Trinidad and Tobago and went out, that a lot of the world was no longer wearing the mask. Right. And people are seeing that if you still have to wear the mask to come to Trinidad and Tobago, they may choose to go somewhere else where that may not be a mandatory requirement. So again, it's a mix of health and the economic part of it that we need to pay attention to.
All right, and I mean, you mentioned Miss C a little bit ago, and I was just wondering, are we seeing any more long-term effects developing within people, either children or adults, who have contracted COVID-19?
Well, the thing that we've always said, and we've been seeing and we still are seeing, are people who have what we consider long COVID, meaning they had COVID, they recovered, meaning they are no longer infectious and they are no longer in that chronic, that stage at the beginning. But if you ask them, how do you feel? They would tell you they don't feel like they've gone back to normal. They may have a lingering cough, or they may have a lingering feeling of still being tired, or they may have a lingering feeling of having brain fog, meaning they're not remembering as much as they used to, and that kind of thing. Those are all effects of COVID, and that is what we classify as long COVID. So yes, we still find people who have those symptoms, who've recovered, but they're still telling you they're not all the way 100% yet, and many of them did not even understand why they were still feeling like that, but we know from seeing it all over the world that this is a long-term effect. So we don't know what that would look like a year from now or 2 years from now. We just have to keep following those individuals to make sure that they actually do recover at a later point.
All right, and let's talk a little bit about the healthcare system itself. Now, I know we started having a parallel system in place. Will that parallel system still continue, knowing that, you know, we are coming out of that pandemic and we are seeing less and less cases of COVID-19 needing hospital care?
Yes, so that parallel system still does exist right now. We still have the up at the fort, what we call Old Fort, where if you are COVID positive and you need to be hospitalized, this is where we keep you at this point. We are going to continue having that space where we can treat with infectious diseases.
So not just COVID-19.
So it will not just be COVID-19, and that was the original plan when we came on the scene, was to develop this, in essence, infectious center of excellence, where, you know, if you have TB, for example, you don't need to go to Trinidad, to go to Cora to be treated with TB. Those are the things we are trying to develop in Tobago so we don't have to treat with it. We still, of course, have to think about monkeypox is coming on the scene, and we have monkeypox in all of these countries. We had a scare right in our neighbor in St. Lucia, where a crew member came and they realized, because they were doing the contact tracing, that that crew member may have had monkeypox, and when the test, it was positive. Imagine if that did not, you know, if they did not catch it. So we still need to have a space where we can separate individuals who need to be quarantined, and we are going to keep building out that space up the fort so that we can provide that service to Tobagonians and to Trinidadians if we get to the point where they need to come to Tobago.
And can you give me a little bit of an assessment of how the parallel system has performed so far? I know, of course, it was rocky at start, but, you know, given the time, like, what is your assessment?
Well, yes, it was rocky, and it was rocky because we really did not, you know, a lot of us didn't understand what was happening. So yes, it certainly was rocky. We've had an opportunity for the professionals to develop themselves so that they know what to look for and know how to treat it and so forth. It is in a much better place now. I will never say that it is the best because there are still several kinks that I am, you know, working with the TRHA to have us work out those kinks. So it's not the best, but it definitely is a good system. And compared to where we were way back when, it is actually a pretty decent parallel system that we have. I am proud of what we've been able to develop, and I am glad that the health professionals are actually there continually developing themselves to get it to this point.
I also want you to speak to the work that has been done by our healthcare workers, because over the past 2 years, they have been working beyond the call of duty to make sure that, you know, they can take care of our sick. What are your thoughts on how have they performed during this time?
You know, they are our heroes. They are our heroes. When the rest of us could have stayed at home because we just decided we want to stay at home, or when we are rusted half time, they did not have that luxury at all. And they held firm and they did what they needed to do. And I am so proud of them. It is actually one of the reasons why, one of the first things we did when we came in, because a lot of those very health professionals were the ones who we brought in quickly for COVID, because we assumed that COVID was going to last a month or 3 months. We said, well, we're not giving you all any long-term contract back then. And we had them on month-to-month, or they were on 3-month contracts, basically. That's why when we came in, one of the first things we're doing, and we're continuing to do it because it's a rolling thing, we actually said to them, we will give you your 3-year contracts. So you don't think that because COVID is coming to an end that we no longer need you. No, we have we have to go back to doing all of the things that we were not doing before, all of the things that we needed to improve before COVID. So we want to make sure that you are still employed, that you know we still need you to be here working on all of these other things. So that's why we started with those 3-year contracts. We've had over 200 of them already signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm so proud of the HR and the CEO and the TRHA for working with me on that. And it's one of the reasons we did it, because we wanted those health professionals who jumped into the fire. When those of us who were running the other direction, they were jumping into the fire. We wanted to say thank you and give you that support, give you that economic stability that we know you need by giving you those 3-year contracts. And that's just a start.
Because, I mean, is it that they're just going to be on a 3-year contract and then at the end something else?
So one of the things we've figured out, or we're looking at, is to determine the actual process for employment within the TRHA. We came from a system where we had public servants. So if you became a nurse, you were a public servant. You know, you were a nurse public servant. If you were a doctor, you were a public servant. That is where we started. Somehow over the last couple of years, that transitioned to contract service. One of the things we are looking at is to transition it back to public service, so that when you get into the profession, the same way you could be become an administrator in the THA, when you get into the profession as a health professional, you don't have to worry about this being a contract thing that you have to resign your contract, but you will be a public servant actually doing it. That is where we're moving towards. So no, the 3-year contract, that's not the end. That's just the beginning of what we are trying to do to ensure that you have job security in the health profession.
All right. So, I mean, we are at a point where well, I wouldn't say it's coming to an end, but it is becoming less of a major problem. Less of a major problem, I guess that's the best way to put it, right? Because it's still an issue, something that we should be concerned about. Now, is it that, I mean, like at the Scarborough General Hospital now, that are we going to continue that testing and so on before someone is hospitalized? Like, what's going to happen with some of those procedures that are there?
So those are some of the things that we have to, it's a kind of wait and see. Let's see how it goes. We still have the COVID tent outside of A&E. We are working with the TRHA to see what is the best way, what are the best mechanisms to have that, whether we need to have the tent or whether we need to use another mechanism. Those are things that we're still working out with the health professionals, because they're the ones who are there every day, looking at it happen every single day. So they're the ones who can give the best solutions for the situation. So it really is we're looking at it, we're waiting, we're looking at the entire, the way we do medicine, and we are going to determine very quickly whether we continue doing that or not. That decision hasn't been made yet because we're still doing some of the necessary assessments.
All right, great. Now, viewers, we are just going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with more.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice car get damaged bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard, I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Advertise with Tobago Updates. Call 284-6597. If you have a small or large business, we can get your information in front of the masses. Reach our rapidly growing viewership on Facebook and YouTube. Promote your brand in Trinidad and the Caribbean through M&E TV Now and Gayel. Yes, we can build unique ads for your business. Call now 284-6597 and advertise with us.
The Street 919 FM and the Tobago Updates presents the Tobago Updates morning show live simulcast on the Street 919 FM. Start your day with all the information you want and need with the simulcast of the Tobago Updates morning show live Mondays to Fridays from 7 a.m. on the Street 919 FM, the official station that defends the nation.
Tobago and Tobago Updates, and of course we are continuing our conversation with the Secretary of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, Dr. Kate B. Israel. And now we're moving on, so we were speaking a little bit about the mask removal earlier, but we're moving on to some other things. Of course, food cards and that social assistance became a very, very important conversation throughout this whole pandemic. Now I want you to first tell me that what's currently happening with the division's food card, which is of course separate from that food card or social assistance that you might get from the Ministry of Social Development.
Right, so I'm glad you asked that question. If we remember during the campaign, during the election season, there was a whole fiasco about the food cards that were under the Division of Finance. My dear loving Chief Secretary and Secretary of Finance, literally on day one of moving into that building, indicated that he wanted to have nothing to do with food cards, and rightly so. So we made the arrangement to have the temporary food cards, which were the ones that you got from Victor E. Bruce, move those over to the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. That has since happened. So the staff have moved over. Since we read the budget, the vote that pays for those things in essence have moved over. Well, you know, we're still in thing about that, but the monies for that and so forth has moved over to the division. Change the policy, because that used to be a 1 month food card. Remember, it should have been 1 month, temporary 1 month, $500. What the Executive Council is going to do this week is to approve a shift in that policy, and after it's done, I will come and make an announcement about what that shift in the policy actually is for the food card. So that is the temporary food card. That is very different from the food cards that were classified as permanent, which are the ones that you got from the Ministry of Social Development. Those are the ones where you had to go down to Canby, to go to their office in Canby to apply for and so forth. Those food cards are not being managed by the Tobago House of Assembly at all.
Right.
And
there's that confusion.
There is
between
that
what's offered
confusion.
by the government and what's offered by the THE.
And particularly since the government of Trinidad and Tobago made a decision, made a policy decision, I guess maybe last year sometime, I'm not sure when exactly, that if you were a recipient of any other kind of social welfare, so if you were getting a disability grant or old age pension or one of those and you were getting their food card, they stopped the food card. So that is a decision that the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the Ministry of Social Development made. They made that policy in Trinidad and basically just said to all of their officers, this is what you are doing. This is why a lot of people in Tobago realized that they suddenly did not have a food card when they were getting one from before. Again, that is not a Tobago of Assembly policy. That is not a Tobago House of Assembly decision. And one of the things I've noticed is that it seems like they have also probably shifted their threshold when they are doing their means test. The means test is basically you bringing all of your information about your income and expenditure and so forth. And the line that you have to cross to determine whether you qualify for the social support, the food or whatever it is, that seems to be very low. At the ministry. So a lot of people who would have qualified before are not qualifying anymore because they've lowered that threshold. At the Tobago House of Assembly, I've actually been chatting with my social workers and we've decided that we are not going to lower our threshold at all. So our threshold is going to remain what it was before, so that if you were able to qualify before, you will still be able to qualify now. And that, because we know people are having a difficult time. People are still coming out.
Food price increase and that sort of thing, it's becoming a little bit more difficult for people.
It is becoming a little. So we are trying our best to see how we can manage getting people the kind of support that they need for as long as they need it, while working with them to not be in that position anymore. So again, if you had one of those food cards from the government, this is why it was cut, because you probably were getting another social support, and that was a decision that was made in Trinidad that, you know, if you're getting another social welfare or whatever it is, you can't keep getting the food card unless you go back and do a reassessment and so forth. That is not a Tobago House of Assembly policy, and even if you do not qualify for those food cards, you can still come and apply to the THA for our temporary food card, and we could see how best we can support you in that regard. So it's one of those things that we have to figure out how to fix it. We have to figure out how to ensure that the policy that we implement in Tobago works for Tobagonians, because if you ask me, I would not have made that decision. The Executive Council would not have made that decision for Tobago. But again, that is a Ministry of Social Development policy that they are simply rolling out. Because for whatever reason, they are rolling that out. But, you know, it is what it is, and we have to figure out how to treat with our Tobago scenario and our system here. So I'm working with the Executive Council to figure out what do we do next to take up that slack.
Right. So, that period, since you guys came into office and you're reassessing this whole program, have you been giving out food cards at all?
Yes.
So people have been receiving that assistance when they request?
Yes, people have been receiving it. We've been trying to tweak the process because we recognize that there were several little bottlenecks that we are picking up. But one of the things we are doing it the right way. So I apologize for the delay. But one of the things we are doing is ensuring that our policy, our actual written approved policy, matches what we are doing. Because that is one of the things, if you look at all of the Auditor General reports, the Auditor General is basically saying you either don't have a policy about something, or the policy you have, you're not following it. So one of the things I have insisted on us doing is actually writing our policies to ensure that the policies make sense, and then implement those policies. So we actually have officers at the division whose sole job, all they work every is to look at policies, read policies, edit them, send them for approval. That is all they do to ensure that when we are implementing these things, we are implementing them in a way that makes sense and in a way that we can then say to the Auditor General and to anyone else who is looking, this is our policy, this is our implementation, they match, so there is no need for you to flag the division anymore. That's what we are working on. So some of the little changes, that's why I don't want to speak about them just yet, because I want to make sure we have all of those steps in place and we have the, we cross the T's and dot the I's before speaking about them publicly.
Okay, and as we're getting ready to wrap up, I just want to touch on that whole digitalization. I thought the word is not coming out this morning. But anyways, I know that you guys, you announced in the budget that you're moving towards an e-wallet system for the food cards. But I just want you to speak to us a little bit about what other measures are you guys putting in place to ensure that, we have more of our services accessible online as opposed to having to come into the office and line up and, that sort of thing.
So there are several things happening at the same time. Yes, we are moving towards the e-wallet system, which we're working with one of our larger banks to figure out how we go through that, because, it is something that is new for us here in Tobago. So that's one of the things. We are also about to roll out a full digitization program within the division where we look at our health data and ensure that we feed our health data into a digital system that allows us to manage that and so forth as well. But you are right, we are also working with the social protection staff to ensure that they are in a position to have our forms online and so forth. That is something where we are working closely with our IT department and our social protection to allow you to. We needed to do some infrastructure, IT infrastructure, for the department. So that is what we are working on now to ensure that the servers that we have and those things are actually up to speed before we start sending people. Because what we don't want is to send people to our website and they we have to try to avoid that. So my IT folks are saying, Dr. Faith, we need this, and that. I said, okay, if this is what we need to make it work, this is what we are going to be pushing for. So all of those things. So if you look at our procurement website, you would actually see that there were RFPs for people to provide those kinds of IT equipment and that kind of stuff. Procurement, there was a RFP for us to have our website rebuilt and designed and that kind of stuff. So we are doing the foundation work that would then allow us to do that kind of digitization where you could just go in and fill in the information on your phone and so forth to make sure that that works for us well. So we are taking the steps. In my mind, I am reminded every day that I can't do everything in one day and that these things take time. So even though there are days that I am eternally frustrated by how slow things are happening, I have to keep reminding myself that we've really only and that we need to pace ourselves and we need to allow the system to catch up with our vision. So that's what we're doing.
All right, so we hope that we could see some of these things materialize in short order. And then we can experience a better level of service, with our health administration and that sort of thing.
Certainly.
So, okay, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Faith, for being with us this morning. It's such a pleasure, of course, to have you on and, just treating with some of the issues that are facing us currently. So viewers, I just want to thank you so much again for staying with us and for continuing to support us and for just your love. We really appreciate it. And just remember, folks, to just stay safe. Have a very, very wonderful and productive day. It's raining outside, so be careful out on the roads. Don't drive too fast. Be careful of don't give people bad drives. Right? Just take your time. You're gonna get there. And follow the rules of the road, okay? I know some people are just very anxious and they zoom in and out, but, take it easy, guys. So thank you so much for viewing, and we'll see you again tomorrow. This is Candice Jackson for Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Update.